was born deaf. Not completely deaf, but a congenital hearing loss that makes the world around me seem like a frosted glass. Sounds exist, but they're distorted, fragmented, and often arrive later than they actually do. I've been used to it since childhood. I learned to read lip movements, to observe details others often miss. Small movements, eye contact, changes in the air. But that also made me realize a terrifying truth. There are things that can reach you without making a sound. And I encountered one such thing last winter. I live alone on the southern edge of Quebec, in a small residential area bordering a forest. Not the wild, untamed forest you see in movies, but patches of old-growth forest interspersed with trails where locals walk their dogs, ski, or jog. It's quiet, familiar, and safe, at least. That's what I always thought. My dog's name is Monty, a Rottweiler Husky mix, big, strong, but extremely clingy. He's my ears when I can't hear clearly. I trust his reflexes more than any of my own senses. That afternoon was unusually cold, even by Quebec winter standards. Snow had fallen all night, blanketing everything in a pure white that was almost surreal. Around 2 o'clock in the afternoon, after a late lunch, I decided to take Monty for a walk in the woods as usual. I didn't bring my phone. That was my first mistake. Winter woods have a beauty all their own. Every sound is swallowed by the snow. Every movement becomes slow and heavy. The dark tree trunks standing against the white background made me feel like I was stepping into a forgotten old photograph. Monty ran ahead, leaving deep footprints in the snow. I let go of the leash as usual. I'd walked this path hundreds of times. I knew every bend, every broken tree stump. After about half an hour, we came to a fork in the road. One path bore old footprints, the other was completely untouched, no human or animal tracks, as if no one had walked it since last night's snowfall. I chose the untouched path. Not for any particular reason, just a small, very human impulse, a fleeting thought, just a little walk. The path led to a clearing in the woods. The pale sunlight reflecting off the snow blinded me. I stopped, took out my binoculars, and began observing the distant branches, hoping to spot some winter birds. And then, I saw it. On the edge of the forest, almost blending in with the tree trunks, was a patch of green that didn't belong in nature. I adjusted my focus. A tarp. Under the tarp was what looked like a makeshift tent, not big, not small, but it was deliberately erected. No one camped in this forest in the winter. A chill ran down my spine, unrelated to the weather. I looked around. There were no footprints leading there, at least not from this clearing. I decided to turn back. On the way back, Monty started acting strangely. It wasn't running ahead anymore. It walked close to my feet, head low, nose pressed against the snow. The fur on its back stood on end. Its tail was lowered. I stopped. Monty stopped too. I bent down to look at the snow and saw footprints. Not mine. They were bigger, longer, deeper. The distance between each step was much wider, indicating the person who left them was considerably tall. I turned my head to look back at the path I had just taken. No one. This road has no turns. If someone had passed, I would have seen them. A thought flickered in my mind, but I dismissed it. Maybe they passed while I was using my binoculars. Maybe I hadn't noticed. I continued walking. Monty, however, didn't. About 10 minutes later, as the light began to turn the grayish blue of a winter sunset, Monty suddenly stopped. He turned his head behind me and began barking fiercely. I turned around. The man stood there, less than a meter from me. I hadn't heard him approach. He was very tall, almost towering over me. He wore dark ski pants and a white camouflage jacket, blending perfectly into the surroundings. His hands were in his pockets. He did nothing. He just stood there. His mouth moved, as if speaking to me. But I couldn't read his lips in the dim light. I also didn't know if he was speaking English or French. I gestured that I was deaf. I pointed toward the residential area. I indicated that it was dark. He stood still. No nod, no backing. Monty growled. Finally, I slipped aside, walked quickly past him, and continued on my way home. I didn't look back. I didn't dare. That night, I got home around 4:30 p.m. I cooked, showered, and watched TV. I tried to convince myself that it was just a strange encounter, nothing more. Around 3 a.m., Monty woke me up. He licked my hand repeatedly, trembling. I grabbed my phone and saw a text message from my neighbor a few minutes earlier. "Are you okay? Your dog is barking too much." Monty wasn't in his room. I went downstairs. He was standing in front of the porch, barking furiously at the darkness outside. I approached. The motion sensor light came on, and I saw him, the man from the woods, standing right in my backyard, moving, not covering his face, staring straight into the glass door. I recoiled, texting 911 with trembling hands. I locked the door, ran upstairs to the bedroom, dragged Monty with me, and grabbed the machete hidden under the bed, something I never thought I'd use. I sat, leaning against the door, holding my breath. After a moment, Monty sprang up, barking toward the bedroom door. I saw his shadow fall through the crack in the door. He'd gotten inside. I stared at the doorknob, waiting for the moment it would turn. But it never did. The police arrived later. The porch glass was shattered. The back gate was wide open, leading straight into the woods. Nothing had been stolen, except for one thing. Under the snow, right by the porch door, there was a line of footprints. But they didn't lead away from the house. They ended abruptly, as if the person who left them had vanished into thin air. I used to think I was level-headed enough not to fall into the trap of foolishness. I was the eldest son. From a young age, I was used to looking after my younger sister, used to my parents' trust, and used to thinking that if anything happened, I would be the one to handle it. But I underestimated what I was facing. Because when someone wants to harm you, they don't need to be stronger than you. They just need to know you well enough. It was early December. I was 17. My sister, Kate, was 15. We lived in a small town in Illinois, where everything was so peaceful it was boring. Kate and I skipped extra school one afternoon to go see a movie. A new horror film had just come out, the kind that was rated 18+, but nobody checked too strictly. We sat near the back of the theater, where the light from the screen reflected off unfamiliar faces. As the movie reached its climax, my phone vibrated. Not just a gentle vibration, it vibrated incessantly, as if someone was trying to grab my attention. I muttered a curse, stood up, and pulled Kate out into the hallway. With the movie music muffled behind the door, I took out my phone to check. A message from my dad. "The diner in the woods is closed today. Can you bring me some lunch?" I read the message very quickly. Too quickly. No spelling mistakes. No strange wording. It was exactly how my dad would text. Kate tilted her head and looked at me. "Did Dad call you?" "He's only been texting," I replied. "Probably a dead battery." That was the first moment I should have stopped. But I didn't. We went home, prepared our food, and drove to the woods where my dad worked. It was a vast nature reserve with a lake in the center. I'd gone there with my dad many times since I was a child. On the way, I called him. No one answered. I called again. Still, no answer. Kate started to get annoyed. "Why aren't you answering?" "Maybe he's busy," I said, though I was already starting to feel uneasy. I texted, "We're here, where are you?" 3 dots appeared almost immediately. "Down to the lake, wait for me there." My heart skipped a beat. Not because of the content, but because of the speed of the response. My dad never texts that fast when he's working. But I kept driving. When we arrived, it was twilight. The winter sunset made the forest look chillingly beautiful. We parked the car, grabbed our bags of food, and walked down the trail leading to the lake. There was no one around. No birds. No insects. Only the feeling of being watched. At the end of the wooden pier, a man sat with his back to us. He was wearing a dark coat, tall and thin. "Dad?" I called. No response. Kate stopped behind me. "Brother, I don't like this." I took a few more steps forward. I wanted it to end quickly. I wanted to prove that I wasn't scared by something so absurd. I reached out and pulled the man's hood down. It wasn't my father. The man turned around very slowly, as if he were enjoying our reaction. His gaunt face, sunken eyes, and crooked smile made my stomach churn. He held my father's phone in his hand. He raised it, shaking it slightly. Kate screamed. The man stood up and lunged forward. He grabbed Kate's arm. I didn't think, I just reacted, pushing him away and pulling Kate along. We ran without looking back. Behind us, I heard footsteps. Not hurried, not rushed, as if he knew for sure we wouldn't escape. When we reached the car, I slammed the door shut and locked it just as he slammed his hand on the window. His eyes were fixed on me, and he smiled. We arrived home in a state of panic. My parents were there. My father turned pale when he heard the story. He said his phone had been stolen while he was at work, and he had come home earlier than planned to look for it. The police were called. They found the phone on the wooden pier by the lake. No fingerprints. No witnesses. The incident was recorded. Then it was closed. I thought it was over. I was wrong. Around 1 in the morning, as I was sitting in my room, the phone rang. An unknown number. "I like that your house is only lit by the TV light." My blood ran cold. I turned off the TV. In the darkness, I heard a very faint rustling outside the window. My room was on the second floor. I pulled back the curtains a little. The man was standing there. He stared straight at me and pointed a gun toward the window. The glass shattered. My parents and Kate rushed into the room. We locked the door and hid in the bedroom when the police came a second time. The man was gone, but under my car, the police found a small tracking device. He had followed us from the woods back home. I had put my sister right in his sights. That man was never caught. But from that day on, I never replied to a text message immediately again, even if it came from the number of the person I trusted most. Because I understood, there are some messages that, if you reply, you may never have a chance to correct your mistake. If I had to use one word to describe that day, I would choose busy. Not the kind of busy that's dynamic or meaningful, but the kind of busy that makes you so exhausted you start making stupid decisions just to get it over with faster. It was 2021, the peak of COVID. I was working from home, sitting in front of my computer screen almost all day, participating in endless Zoom meetings with blurry faces and slurred voices. I was supposed to be at my parents' house early for dinner with my family, but the meeting ended up lasting almost 2 hours longer than expected. When I turned off my computer, it was already dark, and my phone was full of messages asking where I was. I made 2 cups of coffee to take with me. I didn't know then that I would need them, in a very different way. As soon as I opened the front door, I realized this trip wouldn't be easy. The wind had picked up. The snow began to fall thick and heavy, not a light drizzle, but dense, white slush lashing directly at my face. The streets were barely cleared. The street lights dimmed in the snow. My car was an old Hyundai. No 4-wheel drive, no ABS, no traction control. A terrible choice for that night. I still decided to go. Just drive slowly, I told myself. That was my first mistake. On the residential roads, I kept my speed below 25 miles per hour. But once I got onto the highway, things looked better. Fewer cars, straight road. I sped up, 70 miles per hour. Even though part of me whispered that it was a bad idea, the rest of me, the tired, irritable part, won. I arrived at my parents' house around 9 o'clock in the evening. They had already started eating, but weren't finished. The atmosphere inside was warm, familiar. Wine was poured, gifts were exchanged, laughter filled the room. And then, time passed. I forgot that outside, the snowstorm was intensifying. By the time I stood up to say goodbye, it was well past midnight. The snow had thickened by almost 30 centimeters. I had drunk. Not much, but enough to make me overestimate my abilities. "I'm fine," I said when my mother looked at me worriedly. I believed her. That was my second mistake. The road home was almost deserted. The wind howled through the lampposts. The snow obscured everything so much that I could only see a few meters ahead. As my car turned onto a winding road leading to the highway, I decided to speed up a bit just to get through this section faster. 40 kilometers per hour. The moment the front wheels touched the curve, I felt it. Loss of traction. The car started to skid. At first, it was just a slight skid. I'd skidded before. I knew what to do. I steered in the direction of the skid. I eased off the gas. I took a deep breath, but the car didn't react. It continued to skid, and it skidded faster. I started to panic. Time seemed to slow down strangely. I remember vividly the moment the headlights shone directly into a large tree on the side of the road. I remember thinking, no way. Then there was the crash. A deafening sound. The airbags deployed. My chest ached. The windshield shattered. My car stopped. Silence fell. I sat there, stunned, trying to breathe evenly. Snow fell silently outside. There were no other cars, no witnesses. I reached out and turned off the engine. And then I noticed something strange. There were no skid marks behind my car. There were no winding tire tracks in the snow as there should have been. Only straight tire tracks, leading from the road straight into the tree trunk. As if I hadn't even tried to avoid them. I got out of the car, my legs trembling. The air was bitterly cold. I looked around, trying to compose myself. That's when I saw the footprints. Not mine. They led from the edge of the forest to the road, around the car, and then disappeared. I stood frozen. No other car, no other tire tracks, only those footprints. And then I heard something, not from outside, but from inside the car, a very faint breath. I spun around. The back seat was empty, but the thin layer of fog on the inside of the window was melting. as if someone had just been sitting there. I recoiled, my heart pounding. I wanted to run, but my legs wouldn't move. I realized the most terrifying thing. All the way there, I never checked the back seat. I called 911 with trembling hands. When the police arrived, they found no one. No signs of break-in, nothing unusual except one thing. The officer looked at the snow, then at me. "You said the car skidded?" I nodded. He shook his head. "No skid marks. My car was towed away. I was taken to my parents' house. Everyone said I was just in shock. Accident, exhaustion, alcohol, snowstorm. All of them made sense. But that night, as I lay in the living room, I heard steady breathing behind me. I didn't turn around. I didn't dare. My car was later declared beyond repair. But before it was crushed, I went back to the parking lot to get some personal items. When I opened the back door, I saw faint handprints on the inside of the window, in a position where an adult could sit very comfortably. I no longer drive at night, not because of the snowstorm, but every time I look in the rearview mirror, I still have this feeling that, if I look long enough, I will see someone sitting in the back.